Hey everyone, this is Will of Third and Long. Welcome to our NBA Best Bets video. So we'll be looking at the best bets for Sunday, March 3rd, looking at all 8 NBA games that we have. And this is the betting portion of the video. So the spreads, the money lines, and the over-under. We'll be breaking down every single game, seeing who we think is going to win each of these matchups. So hit that like button and subscribe, and let's go ahead and get things started with the games that we have coming up this Sunday. Kicking things off at 1 p.m. on ABC, we're going to have the Philadelphia 76ers sitting at 34-25 versus the Dallas Mavericks sitting at 34-26. Dallas comes into this game as 7.5-point favorites here, and the over-under is 238.5. So Vegas has this game being a shootout. Obviously, this is one of the better matchups of the season. You have the Philadelphia 76ers. They sit 5th in the East, and the Dallas Mavericks sit 8th in the West. They both have pretty good records. Obviously, Philadelphia's coming into this game, they're pretty beat up. So they don't have Covington, they don't have Milton, they don't have Martin, they don't have Embiid. So they're missing a lot of pieces, but the Mavericks should be coming in here fully healthy, led by Luka and Kyrie Irving. Looking at our leading scorers, we have Maxey leading the way for the 76ers, 26.1 points per game. And then you have Luka, who's practically averaging a triple-double, 34.5 points per game, 8.9 rebounds, 9.7 assists. Looking at the team stats, the 76 average 117.1 points per game. Mavericks average 118.8 points per game. And on defense, Philadelphia gives up 113.7 points per game. Dallas 118.0 points per game. Dallas doesn't have a bad defense. They don't have the best defense, but they can score a lot of points. They're 7-3 their last 10 games. Philadelphia is 4-6. So these teams are going in two different directions. I have Dallas getting the win, and I'm going to go with the over. I think this should be a higher scoring game, but I have Dallas getting the win here. The next matchup we're going to be looking at also on ABC at 3:30 p.m. We have the 32-27 Golden State Warriors versus the 47-12 Boston Celtics. The Celtics are 10.5-point favorites here. The over-under 230.5. This is a really good game. Celtics are very large favorites at home. Both of these teams have been playing pretty well their last 10 games. Celtics are 10-0 their last 10 games. Warriors are 8-2. So both teams are pretty hot, but the Celtics are really hard to beat at home. They're looking at 28-3 at home so far this year. So it's virtually practically impossible to beat them in Boston. Looking at our leading scorers here, you have Curry leading the way for the Warriors, 27.5 points per game. And, of course, the Celtics are led by Jason Tatum, 27.1 points per game, 8.5 rebounds per game. And they also have Brown putting up massive numbers. Golden State averages 119.1 points per game. Boston, 121.0 points per game. And on defense, the Warriors give up 116.8 points per game. And Boston gives up 110.2. Golden State, they're 9th in the West. Celtics are 1st in the East. They're hard to beat at home. I have Boston getting the win. It's a really big spread, but I have them getting the win, and I'm also going to go with the over in this game as well. Golden State has the offense to push Boston, but Boston is just too good. The next matchup we're looking at is also a really good matchup. At 3:30 p.m., we have the 38-20 LA Clippers versus the 42-18 Minnesota Timberwolves. Minnesota is the underdog here at home. The Clippers are favored by 1.5. The over-under 219.5. Timberwolves, they're pretty good at home. They have a really good lineup, obviously. They have Edwards, they have Karl Anthony Towns, they're both putting up big numbers, but the Clippers also have a really good lineup. So you have Leonard, you have Paul George, you have Harden, who's actually having a pretty decent year so far. Looking at our leading scorers, Leonard averages 24.0 points per game, Edwards averages 26.3 points per game. Looking at our team stats here, the Clippers average 117.8 points per game. They have a very good offense, and Minnesota averages 113.7 points per game. On defense, Clippers give up 112.9 points per game. Minnesota with a really good defense. They're giving up 106.6 points per game. Minnesota 7-3 their last 10 games. Clippers are 5-5. I'm going to go kind of with the upset here. So I'm going to go with Minnesota getting the upset, and I'm also going to be going with the over. I don't think these teams are going to score a lot of points, but I could see, like a 114 to 110 game. So I think that they'll just barely scratch and go over. The next game that we're looking at 6 p.m., we have the 9-50 Detroit Pistons versus the 34-26 Orlando Magic. Detroit, they're just awful. They've been bad for a long time. They just kind of have to find their footing. But this team gives up a lot of points. They're not bad on offense, but their defense is pathetic, basically. So the Magic, they're 10.5-point favorites here at home, and the over-under is 219.5. Looking at our leading scorers, you have Cunningham leading the way for the Pistons. He averages 22.4 points per game, and then you have Banchero here leading the way for the Magic. He averages 22.8 points per game, 6.8 rebounds per game, 5.2 assists per game. For the team stats here, Detroit, they're 14th in the East. They average 112.5 points per game. That's not bad. And then the Magic average 111.5 points a game. So Detroit, obviously slight favorite on offense, but the defense is where you really see the separation of these two teams. The Pistons give up 121.1 points per game, and the Magic give up 110.2 points per game. So Pistons give up a lot of points no matter who they're playing. They don't have a bad offense, but it's not good enough to keep up with how bad their defense is. I have the Magic getting their 4th or 5th straight win at home, and I'm going to go with the under here. I just don't think that this is going to be a high-scoring game, but I do have the Magic continuing to win at home. The next game is a matchup between two teams that aren't very good. At 6 p.m., we have the 15-45 Charlotte Hornets versus the 22-38 Toronto Raptors. The big issue for the Hornets is they have absolutely no offense at all. They actually statistically have the worst offense in all of basketball. They can't get to the rim. They can't shoot mid-range. They can't shoot threes. They really don't do anything well. They don't have a bad defense considering how bad the offense is, and they do average a lot of turnovers per game. Raptors are the healthier team. Hornets have about 5 or 6 players that are out this game, so they're going to be limping into this. They're really bad, and they're on the road, so they don't even have a good offense to carry with them on the road. Looking at our leading scorers here, you have Bridges leading the way for the Hornets. He averages 21.4 points per game, 7.5 rebounds per game, so having a really strong season. And the Raptors are led by Barnes at 19.9 points per game, 8.2 rebounds per game, 6.1 assists per game. Charlotte on offense, like I said, worst in the NBA. They average 107.6 points per game. Toronto, pretty decent offense. They average 114.5 points per game. And on defense, Charlotte gives up 118.1 points per game. Toronto gives up 117.8 points per game. Looking at the way Vegas has it, they have the Raptors 7.5-point favorites here, over under 225.5. I have the Raptors getting the win. Charlotte won't be able to rely on bringing a good offense on the road. Toronto should be able to suffocate them at home, get the win, but I will be going with the under. I could see like a 110 to 107 or 105 type game. The next game that we're looking at is one of our better matchups this weekend. At 7 p.m. on ESPN, we have the 35-25 New York Knicks, who have a pretty good record, but they're 2-8 their last 10 games. So the last 2 weeks, they've kind of been sliding backwards, but they're still a pretty good team. They'll be visiting the 39-20 Cleveland Cavaliers. The Knicks sit at 4th in the East. Cleveland sits at 2nd in the East, but these teams are really close, and they're both really good teams. The Knicks are going to be led by Brunson. He averages 27.7 points per game, putting up really good numbers this year. And the Cavs are led by Mitchell, averaging 28.0 points per game. The Knicks, as a team, they average 113.6 points per game. Cleveland, 114.6 points per game. On defense, both teams have really good defenses. The Knicks give up 109.9 points per game. Cleveland gives up 109.6 points per game. So these teams are virtually a lock on offense and on defense. Looking at what Vegas has, they have the Cavs winning this game by 4.5 and the over-under 211.5. I'm actually going to go with the Knicks. I think the Knicks have been so bad the last 2 weeks. They're due to get a win on the road. So I have the Knicks winning, but I will be going with the over in this game. Two really strong teams, two very similar teams. So anything is possible here. Our next matchup that we're moving on to at 7 p.m., we have the 34-27 Indiana Pacers. They'll be visiting the 12-48 San Antonio Spurs. So when you're looking at this matchup, Vegas has the Spurs As the underdogs here, the Pacers on the road, 6.5-point favorites, over under 244.5. So Vegas is preparing for this game to be a virtual shootout. Looking at our leading scorers, you have Halliburton leading the way for the Pacers, averaging 21.0 points per game, and then Wembanyama leading the way for the Spurs, averaging 20.7 points per game, 10.2 rebounds per game. For the Pacers defense is god-awful. They are atrocious, but they can score points with anyone. So they average 123.6 points per game. San Antonio, they average 112.3. And on defense, Pacers, they score a lot of points. They give up just as many points. Every game is a shootout with them. They give up 122.1 points a game. San Antonio, they give up 120.6 points a game. So they also have a pretty bad defense. The Spurs really don't do anything well. That's why they only have 9 wins so far this year. They don't have a bad offense, but it's not good, and they have a pathetic defense. Pacers at least have a really good offense to kind of make up for how bad their defense is. But that's why the over-under is so high, is because neither of these teams play defense. I have Indiana getting the win on the road. I'm going to go with the under, just because that's a really high over there. It is definitely possible that this could be, a 130 to 120 type game, but I'm going to go with the under for me personally. And our final game should really be a fun one to watch on ESPN at 9:30 p.m. We have the 41-18 Oklahoma City Thunder playing the 35-25 Phoenix Suns. The Thunder are 2.5-point favorites here. The over-under 234.5. So Vegas also has this one being a pretty high-scoring game. But these are two pretty stacked teams. And there's really not a lot that separates these teams. The Thunder sit at 2nd in the West. The Suns sit at 5th in the West. And the Suns are at home. Looking at our leading scorers, you have Alexander here leading the way for the Thunder. Just having a crazy season so far. He's averaging 31.2 points per game, 5.6 rebounds per game, 6.5 assists per game. And the Suns are led by the old Thunder player, Kevin Durant, putting up a typical Kevin Durant season, averaging 27.9 points per game, 6.7 rebounds per game, 5.7 assists per game. Oklahoma, they are averaging 121.2 points per game. Suns average 117.4 points per game. Both teams can score. Both teams have respectable defenses also. So the Thunder give up 113.3 points per game. Phoenix gives up 114.3 points a game. So virtually a tie on defense, but the Thunder have the very slight edge on offense. They are the favorites here, but do not underestimate the Suns. They're a stacked team. They're probably going to be without Beal still, but they still have Durant. They still have Booker. They are at home. I have the Thunder getting the win, though, on the road. They're just the better team. They were the hottest team in the West the first portion of this season. They have kind of taken a step back, but both of these teams are really good. This game is virtually a 50-50 game, but I'm going to go with the under. I don't think it's going to be a 130-120 game. Definitely possible. Both teams can score, but with the Thunder just being a little more beat up, they don't have the depth on the bench to match the Thunder. I have the Thunder getting the win. So that's my breakdown of our Sunday, March 3rd NBA best bets. Hit that like button and subscribe. If you have any comments, drop them below and I'll make sure to respond. Thanks.